Don Mazzella here for Small Business Digest. We have two guests today. We're sitting side by side, and they're here to talk about something that's part of the gig economy, part of what's happening in the world today. Amy Sutro and Kyle Cord are with us. Suto, am I pronouncing it right? Okay. And they're here to talk about their company, which I found fascinating. And I want a lot of detail. But first, I'll ask each of them their personal backgrounds, then a little bit about their company, who have a great title, and finally a website. We'll start with you, Amy.
Awesome, thank you. So basically, I grew up in this small town where people ride horses to work, and I escaped for the big city. I went to USC for screenwriting, and I immediately started working in the television industry, writing for TV and kind of learning about Hollywood. And the thing that I kind of found out in working my way up the ladder of Hollywood is that writers are so exploited, and that there's a lot of kind of problems with the way that creatives are treated in the industry. And that's something that I wanted to tackle. And while I was kind of making my way up the ladder in Hollywood, I was also building a successful six-figure memoir ghostwriting career. So I was traveling the world and ghostwriting memoirs for people. I've ghostwritten memoirs for Himalayan monks, former Olympians, Silicon Valley CEOs. And so in that process, I found freedom in being able to use my skills and use my writing ability to help other people tell their stories while I was also doing my own creative projects. And that kind of is what brought me to co-founding Kingdom of Ink with Kyle.
Yeah, and I met Amy when we were working in Hollywood, and I kind of was always trying to figure out like what was a better ladder for people to actually create the life that they wanted, and I felt like that so much of what was happening in Hollywood was just huge amounts of exploitation. And I was, Amy was telling me about what she was doing with freelance, and I thought that that was incredibly cool and felt like an actual pathway to creating a life that could be sustainable and more enriching and allow you to travel, because a lot of the things that happen in Hollywood is that people are deeply afraid of ever leaving Los Angeles because they think that there's a job that's going to pop up in 2 hours. And so I know people that have missed their grandmother's funeral. I know a lot of people that have like really sacrificed a lot out of anxiety that they are going to be passed over. And so we wanted to kind of create an atmosphere where people's value was truly accounted for in the craft that they can do in writing. And so when we were sort of talking about what Amy had done, I was like, what it would be like to break that down and make a company out of that, to give other people the chance to have sort of that freedom and happiness that Amy cultivated for herself. And so then we decided to create Kingdom of Ink.
Mm. So say it again. The name of your company?
Yes, so the name of our company is Kingdom of Ink, and you can visit us at kingdomofink.com, which is spelled KINGDOMINK.com.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Kingdom of Ink.
Yeah.
It is early in our time zone. I apologize.
Okay. Great title. Where did you come up with it?
So I had started this company called Kingdom of Pavement, which was this company where we did open mic nights and brought together musicians and actors and kind of created this space in Los Angeles where that they could share their work and perform and be in the space together and be creatives together. And when the pandemic hit, we transitioned Kingdom of Pavement to a scripted podcast company, bringing all those musicians that we met in person in Los Angeles into the digital realm where we all continue to make art together. And so when we were coming up with names for Kingdom of Ink, we were thinking about our model of Hollywood 2.0, which is all of the components that we wanted to be, to exist to support creatives in a holistic career that would help actually change the game when it comes to helping writers find happiness and bringing together a creative community. So Kingdom of Pavement is our production wing. It's where we help people make things. We actually just had a podcast get into Lalith, which is a festival in Los Angeles, and we've been doing really well there. And that's kind of where creatives can go to make the things that makes their heart sing. Where Kingdom of Ink is where we provide high-end ghostwriting services and support creatives in having their skills, which are very valuable, be used to help others tell their stories in terms of memoir ghostwriting, business book ghostwriting, and all of these other assignments. So that's where creatives can kind of come to actually leverage their skills to help other people and earn a living while they make their stuff in Kingdom of Pavement. And so that's kind of, those two sister companies were kind of created in tandem to support creatives in their endeavors as they grow and develop.
Well, some great writers say the only way to be a good writer is to suffer. Yet you're saying, here I am trying to figure out how to make writers less suffer. What do you
Yeah.
say to that?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. There's this great book by Jeff Goins called Real Artists Don't Starve. And one of his examples in the book was Michelangelo, who we, just assume was probably like a poor sculptor who luckily got the Sistine Chapel, but not at all. Like, he had hundreds of people working for him. He was a businessman, and he was able to be creative and do his art while making a living. And that's exactly the kinds of things we want to empower creatives to do. It doesn't take a whole lot of work for creatives to leverage their skills and help other people and continue to learn the craft while they're doing so. I've learned so much through ghostwriting memoirs for my clients. Like, I've grown as a writer immensely. And while I think we all, inherent to life is a lot of suffering already. We don't want to encourage people to add on to that suffering. Instead, we're encouraging artists and writers to find a way to kind of continue to hone their craft through concerted effort and work, while being able to kind of cushion themselves to go after bigger risks and bigger projects. Because what we found in Hollywood is that you have power by creating your own IP, by shooting your indie film, by making a scripted podcast, by writing that novel. And if you have those things, those things can be your calling card. And that's something that we really wanted to be able to provide to other people, is the financial ability to make those things. So because right now in Hollywood, a lot of what we're seeing is that the people who have trust funds are able to go off and shoot the movie of their dream and like rise in the industry. And so we wanted to kind of break down like the classism and the barriers to entry of that, and actually have a way for creatives to be able to self-fund projects, have control over their IP, and make a name for themselves. And it's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of suffering when you get on set and it's raining and you were supposed to shoot a bright day shoot, and everything is falling apart and the crafty's late. So there's plenty of suffering already inherent in the creative's journey.
When you say IP, are you referring to intellectual property?
Yeah, so IP, intellectual property, is what creatives can leverage in terms of they can sell it, they can option their material to Hollywood for a TV show or a movie, and it's kind of the most important thing that everybody is trying to get a hold of or bargain with. And if you have IP or intellectual property that you own, then you have a lot of leverage and control.
Okay, I'm a writer in Peoria, Kansas, or I find your website, and I think I'm a writer. What do you offer, and how do I go about showing my skills?
Yeah. So Kyle built our intake system.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of source like really high level people, and we keep iterating on what this application system is, and we have a 0.95% acceptance rate of people that we allow to enter, to have a trial run essentially of jobs that are coming in, and then we decide if they're going to become fully on the website. And so that is like what our intake and application system is. And we offer various SKUs of writing services, basically almost like any writing that you would want help with, we can do. But like the main thing that our bread and butter is memoirs, because there's so many people out there that have incredible stories that just never have enough time in life to tell them. And there's this like this African proverb that says that every time an elder dies, a great library burns to the ground. And we didn't want those stories to disappear from our world. And so we thought creating this service like this was also doing a service to the world, and doing it for creatives and for people that want to have their stories told, whether it's telling the story of how their grandparents met during the war, or like there's a lot of these stories that are kind of disappearing with older generations. And there's many clients that we service that we really want to have them not disappear, because I feel like the first step to your legacy is to write it down. And so many people just don't have the time, or really the focus, because there's so much other stuff in life. And so we want to be your focus, and we want to be your pen. And that's sort of what our services are. But we do that from memoir writing to various forms of copywriting. And a new SKU that we're really excited about is actually turning memoirs into fiction, and to kind of like streamline some people's stories, because that's like a very I don't know, that's a very particular area that like a lot of people aren't as equipped for. But like us coming from Hollywood and TV writing, we feel uniquely positioned to take nonfiction events and fictionalizing them.
But how do you find the people that want to do their biographies or tell their stories? Well, how do they find you?
Yeah, we're lucky that they've found us. People who really want to write their stories are, will turn over every rock to do so. And so we've written a lot of blogs about our process and about memoir writing. We run ads. We have marketing support in terms of social media and some other kind of SKUs and ways that we get our name out there. But yeah, I think the most important thing for us is right now to kind of spread the word and reach those people who may not be necessarily thinking about turning their life into a memoir, and not thinking about what's going to happen when they die. We like have clients who are paying for memoirs to be written about their aging parents. And we're really here kind of after the pandemic. I feel like everyone's confronting their mortality and confronting the things that could be lost in the event that somebody dies in their family. And so we've been kind of getting a lot of traffic from people who are realizing how important it is to capture stories. But we do a lot of our marketing on digital marketing and social and things like that.
So you, in effect, your audience for people looking forward are people realizing that we're losing our heritage as this older generation dies. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely. And they're realizing that when you lose a family member, you also lose all of their memories and all their stories. And if they're not captured in some way, then it's just going to disappear over the course of generations. And so it's been a real joy to help people make sure that they capture those memories and capture their stories, because there's so much wisdom to be gained in those. And there's so much, family heritage, and those stories will just get lost if they're not recorded.
Well, you're looking at a man who's written such a book, because uh, uh, my generation is passing, and I realized at the couple of weeks ago that I'm the last survivor of this generation. But I happen to be a writer, so I could write it. But I want to get back to, so you have a system. I would go on it if I'm from Peoria, and you would ask certain questions and figure out whether I am a qualified writer or not. Or this person from Peoria.
Yeah, so basically we have an application page on our website where people can go and fill out our application, submit writing samples, and we have a little bit of a test task on it where you do a sample page of a memoir based on a video interview. And so we kind of want people to, it is a bit of a rigorous application process, because we want to find the people who are serious about what we're doing and are serious about kind of moving forward their career. And so they move through the application process, and we have a few meetings and interviews that kind of begin that process. And then from there, if you pass the interviews and we love your application, then we would put you into a kind of a trial run, giving you access to some of the jobs that we have, and getting a sense of whether or not you're a right fit for us and we're a right fit for you. And we take care of, we love our community, and that's a big part of Kingdom of Ink, is our community of freelancers, because it is so lonely being a freelancer sometimes. If you're just kind of out in the world just doing your own thing, you're kind of cut off from a lot of other people. You don't have a coworker at a desk right next to you. You're kind of just out there on your own. And so a big driver for us in creating Kingdom of Ink is creating a place where we can bring freelancers together, have them get to know each other. We throw a lot of digital events. We have a community manager who helps us, and that's something that's really important for us, is to create the system of mutual support, and have our freelancers be able to get the help they need if they're facing a tricky situation or with a client, or if they're, need some support and just like, unwinding or like finding other community members. And so we're big on kind of connecting people and making sure that our freelancers are supported so that they can do the best work possible for our clients.
Well, once your writer finishes the book, and the person is satisfied, the writer, do you help them publish the book, or what happens then?
Yeah, so we do offer publishing services, and we also offer advice in support and navigating traditional publishing if that's something that our client is interested in. It's really fascinating to watch the trends kind of move away from traditional publishing. We're seeing that there's a lot more money to be made for writers in independent publishing, if they're willing to do the legwork or to hire like a boutique firm. And we're seeing like a mass decline in traditional publishing jobs. We're seeing that a lot of the bestsellers are coming from self-published books on Amazon. And so we're kind of seeing a shift away from the big four publishers and seeing it kind of disperse more, which I find really fascinating. But yeah, we do offer advice and pros and cons of like, here's like, you can go with this option, you can go with this option. So we want our clients to feel supported in after that they have a finished book, that they know what to do with it, because your book is an asset. It's something that you can sell, you can kind of share with the world, you can inspire others with it. So we want to make sure that from beginning to end, our clients are supported in the whole process and know what their options are.
So, your website again, and how people can find you?
Yeah, so our website is kingdomofink.com, and I'll spell it right this time. KINGDOMOFINK.com.
I get
it. I've passed. I can be a writer now.
Well, believe it or not, people will remember it more for the mistake than for doing it. Anyway, so we're sitting here. If I'm hearing you right, how do you make your money?
Yeah, so what we do is we take a small percentage of the contracts, and what we do, like just like any other freelance marketplace, but we also have something really unique where a percentage of the percentage that we take gets redistributed back to our writers in the form of mutual aid. So everyone in our collective receives part of our cut in a way that we can kind of support everyone financially. And so we take a smaller cut than other places like Upwork or Fiverr, because we really do believe in community. And we have other companies and other sources of income as well. So we're really about helping our writers succeed and giving them the resources they need to succeed, and only making like the bare minimum on contracts so that we can continue to support our writers and keep investing in them.
Well, can you give how long have you been in business, and how often do you add writers?
Yeah, so we launched in March, actually. So we're brand new, and we've been adding writers as we find the right people. We have a constant kind of search in terms of looking out and meeting new writers, and we have a wait list right now of potential writers to add to the website. And so we're kind of trying to find the right fits depending on client demand and the projects that we have coming in. And so we're trying to slow grow, but we are also also having a lot of demand for certain kinds of projects. So we're trying to find the right writers to meet that demand.
To me, the tough part is finding the demand for writers. To me would seem to be the hard part. Finding the writers. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, we've actually found more of the opposite is true. We really like our biggest hurdle this year has been finding the most talented top of the line writers who can meet deadlines and communicate effectively with clients. Like it's very hard to find writers who are both highly creative and effective and also can kind of operate on a business level. The demand for great writers is always there because even just on a business side, on the copywriting assignments we take on, great writers can sell products. Great writers can, bring the search engine traffic to your blog. I've built blogs with over 30,000 followers and a lot of organic traffic just off of the strength of the writing and no paid advertising. So if you have really, really great writers, it completely supercharges your results and allows your business to grow just on a business side. And I've also seen the careers of people I've ghostwritten business books for just completely take off. They've gotten TED Talks, they've gone on book tours. And so people will pay for great writers. And I've seen that with my own work and my own clients because great writing changes lives. And so we're trying to find the right clients and the clients that value what we're offering and value really great writing and really great customer service and want to support an initiative that is helping creatives while also providing really high-end writing to the clients.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. I've been a writer for a long time, but how do you define a good writer?
Yeah, that's something that it is a little subjective, but for us, what we found is most successful with writers is people who are able to capture the client or the company's brand voice and being able to write in a way that emulates them. The most successful ghostwriters are able to really hone into a voice, understand the goal of the project, and make sure that is successful. And so great writers are kind of like chameleons. You would kind of jump from project to project. Like I've written for all sorts of different people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And I have to kind of jump in and figure out like what kind of words do they use, what part of the country are they from, what part of the world are they from, how do they speak, how do they talk, like what are their sentence lengths, what does that feel like you kind of need an ear to understand somebody's voice. And then you also need to be able to understand like macro structure and also have the creative ability to weave a story in a certain way. Like even if you're just writing a product description, it's like poetry. And so we definitely source writers who are able to take like the written word and even in the smallest form and elevate it and make it feel to your ears like it's just it fits and it feels right. And understanding syntax and having perfect grammar and having all those kind of building blocks create a really beautiful piece of work.
Kyle, she's doing most of the talking.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you? How do you divide the work between the two of you?
Well, I find that like Amy and I are like, are strong in different parts. And I think that, Amy is incredibly good with, managing a lot of the freelancers, having to keep a lot of the systems up and running. And then I think a lot of the thing that I'm constantly doing is basically system redesign and trying to figure out optimization. And so like even for instance, the most recent thing that we went really into the gut, or I went really into the guts for, was intake system, because we were kind of not getting who we wanted, and we were trying to figure out like how do we source the particular people that are like hungry, talented, cool, like people that you want to spend a couple hours with telling your life story to. And that actually is incredibly difficult to find. Everyone can write, but there's very few people that are writers that would fit into our community. And I think that because often with creatives, they're often not very punctual. They're a bit flighty. And a lot of people that we've seen and what Amy saw on Upwork, which is another sort of kind of just job board online, is that they would start it with somebody and then they just weren't getting the quality in, and all of that, is that we wanted to create a system that inherently was imbued with quality. And a lot of that was going through very specific instructions that these people had to follow very clearly. And if they didn't, then that'd create a red flag. Is that there's essentially a lot of tests in our application to weed out people that aren't being thorough. And Amy always talks about green M&Ms. And the green M&Ms test is that there was a band that had like this 50-page contract that they would sign with every venue. And basically on like page 47, it would say, and in our dressing room, or in our our dressing room, you have to have a bowl of completely green M&Ms. And every time that they would enter that dressing room, they would immediately look for that. And if it wasn't there, they would just pack up and leave. Because if they can't get simply a bowl of green M&Ms right, what else haven't they gotten right? And so we want to create the level of like beauty and thoughtfulness that can only be captured by a certain amount of people. And so I'm often more in systems design, overall strategy, and basically damage control in various aspects if there's something that isn't working.
Yeah, I'm really curious on that. I've been a writer most of my life, and some people say I'm a great writer. Other people tell you I can't do it. It's really writing is such a subjective subject. I'm very curious. I'm going to go on your site and look at your thing, how you can identify a good writer. You know, it's I'd like to explore that a little bit in the time that we have left.
Yeah. Well, we come up in Hollywood, and a big part of like Hollywood culture to basically give some minimum wage workers some more minimum wage is that they constantly are doing coverage. And so Amy and I have read thousands and thousands and thousands of books, scripts, every material you can think of under the sun that Hollywood is trying to source to think if they could make something out of it. And so we have read a lot of bad. We've also read some good. And there are actual things that you can be tracking in writing that I think is a universal sign of quality. There's a story that I tell sometimes to our freelancers and people, is that like there's like this TED talk about this guy who was in marketing for a long time, and he tells the story of how his grandfather owned a clock shop. And he would just like, he was bored there for a bit, and then he started asking questions, and then he's like, I don't get why like you're making these things, like what is the difference between that clock and that clock? And the grandfather was working on these two pocket watches, and they looked almost identically similar from like a little bit away. And then he's like, all right, come over here, I'll tell you, I'll teach you a lesson. And so he holds them out in front of him, and he says like, they look pretty similar, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, put out your hands. And then he put the watches into his hands, and then basically said, which one do you feel and like more? And for some reason, he's like, I don't know why, but I like this one more. And he's like, why? And he's like, it's a little heavier. There's just something about it that is, I like it more. And he's like, well, let's open them up. They opened them up. And then basically the one that he was less impressed with was just fairly average, seemed like a factory made thing with not a lot of love. They opened up the other one, and it was a wedding gift from this man's wife, and it had on the gears and the inner wall of the watch their wedding vows. And so she had etched into this watch. And then the kid asked, why would somebody put something there that you could never see? And the grandfather said, because God can see it. There's something about when you have something of extraordinary quality. It goes with food also. A simple piece of sashimi, or something that is beautiful, a beautiful prepared dish, when you put it in your mouth, it's like it's everything. And I think it's like you can taste the intentionality, you can taste the importance, you can taste the love, you can taste the complexity that is in something. And so we kind of have a lot of different variables that we track in order to make sure that is in our writing. It's not so much about what's written on the page, but it's also about the white on the page. And there's a lot of other things in there that we've literally just been like in the trench having to absorb and figure out for Hollywood. And now we're like, using all of those skills for ourselves. But yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, we have just a couple of minutes left. Um, what would you like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I think we'd love to leave your audience with this idea that great writing can change lives and that we're humans powered by stories, and that even a product description or a blog or a memoir, whatever it is, needs to be taken care of and done right. And so we'd love to work with people who care about stories and care about the written word as much as we do. And yeah, and it is an art form, and that's something that we really care about, but it's an art form that can also help people's lives in innumerable different ways.
Hmm. And your website again for people?
Yes, it is kingdomofink.com, spelled KINGDOMOFINK.com. Third time's a
Okay.
charm.
Amy and Kyle, thank you for a very interesting time today. I'm learning a lot, and I'll probably learn a lot more looking at your website. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Amazing. Thank
Don.
you so much.